Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be a part of this panel and contribute to the edited collection on the research agenda of public diplomacy. In my very short presentation today, I will share two significant trajectories that I believe will shape avenues for the development of cultural diplomacy discipline in the future. They include post-national cultural diplomacy as well as post-human cultural diplomacy. So let's start with the first one. The paradigm of national promotion has been especially important and strongly shaped international cultural exchanges and communications since the times of the structuration of the modern state. Not surprisingly, cultural diplomacy as a practice was born with major objectives to communicate a positive country image to the outside world, sharing the best of its traditions, national beliefs, arts, and cultural development. These tendencies have been extensively covered in the cultural diplomacy scholarship that predominantly focused on the national dimension of foreign policies, operating mostly through the bilateral paradigm. For example, as this slide demonstrates, the legacies of the Cold War between the United States and Soviet Russia are reflected in a large body of historical research that mainly focuses on bilateral dimension of the state-driven cultural diplomacy activities. However, in my work, I advocate for more nuanced geographies of explorations, going beyond the traditional nation state or country focus. On the micro level, for example, more research is required to scrutinize the communication modes, power dynamics, and implications of various sub-diplomacies of contested territories, marginalized or indigenous communities who acquire stronger powers of political representation in the age of digital globalization. In a highly interconnected world with more diverse multicultural populations residing in different countries, internal cultural diplomacy directed towards domestic populations should become a research priority. On the macro levels, in the conditions of rapidly unfolding process of globalization that widened, deepened, and accelerated global interconnections between countries, new cultural diplomacy paradigms steadily emerge, focusing on transnational dimension of policies in the postmodern international system. There are new topics that start to raise on the research agenda. They evolve on the intersection between cultural practices and important issues of global resonance and significance, including climate change diplomacy, disability activism, LGBT global rights advocacy, or transnational feminist movements. New studies signal that despite a recent rise of populistic and nationalistic politics across countries, there is still a room for a humanity-centered public diplomacy, which should be in the focus of the future research. Moreover, cultural diplomacy is steadily acquiring a post-human dimension that requires further explorations. In the past, human-to-human communication and cross-cultural exchanges have always been a strong component of cultural diplomacy activities extensively covered in dedicated scholarship. Cultural diplomacy literature has always stressed the importance of a two-way interactive dialogue between people from different cultures. For instance, in cultural diplomacy activities, art has always played a foundational role in establishing these human bridges across borders. Cultural diplomacy scholarship includes a plethora of works on museum diplomacy, traveling exhibitions, heritage diplomacy, ballet and performing arts, arts festivals, as well as research on music tours, from legendary jazz diplomacy during the times of the Cold War to more recent rap and hip hop diplomacy. More recently, though, emerging technologies open new avenues for exploring completely different art practices, which not necessarily take place in traditional physical environments and even invite interventions of non-human actors. New scholarship should modernize the cultural diplomacy research agenda, critically interrogating new emerging forms of digital and new media arts, cyborg art and art robotics, online multiplayer games, metaverse worlds, and artificial intelligence arts to explore new artistic mediums of the future which transform, automate, but complicate, diversify, and challenge cultural diplomacy. Moreover, it is important to explore if digitalization of diplomacy actually supports or at least permits to maintain the same level of cross-cultural relationships based on human-to-human communications. The digital environment doesn't necessarily offer the climate of trust and privacy in online encounters across borders. Furthermore, new modes of global communications are rapidly evolving and increasingly bring in the impact of non-human factor. While there have been excitement around deepfakes used in museums to bring to life historical figures, robots giving addresses for the United Nations Assembly, or works of art created by artificial intelligence, understanding better premises and perils of post-human conditions and their impact on human culture and cultural diplomacy would require further critical engagement with all these issues to size opportunities and risks emerging in the post-human conditions. Thank you for your attention today. I'm happy to continue this conversation beyond the conference, and please feel free to connect. And I wish you a productive panel discussion and an amazing conference experience in Montreal, one of my most favorite cities in the world.